Okay, welcome back to part 3 in planning, pacing, and prioritizing for long haulers. Obviously, if you have not watched parts 1 and 2, I highly encourage you to do that. So, this last piece is going to be about building a weekly schedule and knowing that we need to be flexible with it. So, figuring out how we feel every day, but if we are able to look at our activities that we do as a week, we're able to kind of figure out how to divvy up some of these tasks. So, the first thing I would like for you to do is go through and block some priority times. So the number one thing I'd like you to do is make sure that you have 8 to 10 hours of a sleep opportunity. Our body loves it when we are consistent with our going to bed times and our wake up times. I know you may not necessarily be sleeping through this 8 to 10 hours, but focusing on your sleep and on rest and not getting on your phone, not getting on your computer, not watching television or doing anything that requires light, high light, is trying to get your body to pay more attention to these circadian rhythms and get back to having that really good night restful sleep. So at the very bottom, it's kind of cut off, but my sleep time is from 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that is an 8-hour block. If you need more sleep, please block more sleep. But that needs to go on your schedule first. This is the most important piece for improving that secondary fatigue. Okay. Next, if you're working, obviously those are fixed times. So please block in your work time. But if you are able to block in rest times or a lunch time, please do that. Take a 30-minute lunch break. Take the 15-minute breaks that you are allocated. Again, our body loves routine. If that is available to you, please try and do that consistently throughout the day. We need to be eating and paying attention to our mealtime, so I highly encourage you to sit down and eat. Even if you don't eat much, eat something. Sit at the table, pay attention to your food, try and avoid multitasking. So on here, I've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast tends to be a little bit more about my kids. That's not super restful, but lunch, I'm able to focus usually on myself. Dinner, I'm usually able to sit down and focus on my food. Also, if you already know times that you are able to add in a rest break, please add that in. And then I also highly encourage you to do a morning or an evening routine where you can do a check-in, where you can get your body functioning optimally, where you've got a little bit of time for love for yourself. So I get up at 6 and the schedule doesn't start until 7. So all of that is kind of my morning routine time. Okay, examples of routines that work. Again, our bodies love routine. So evening time, it can really help to wind you down. Morning time, it can really help to set a tone for the day. So I highly encourage you to have some kind of ritual, a prayer, a focus, a goal, a gratitude deal where you can start your day off with a positive mindset. Also, we've been asleep all night. It's really good to do a little bit of body care. So not just brushing your teeth, but kind of having a whole oral and sinus care routine. This is a good time to add in some sensory input. So doing a dry brushing routine or doing a little massage with a little vibration massager, or stepping outside for a few minutes and getting a couple minutes of natural light and natural fresh air. Some ideas for evening routine: calming music, a low light activity, journaling, meditating, making sure you're taking your meds, if you're going to bathe, doing it at night is encouraged if you're able to, just because that tends to relax her body. Again, giving yourself a little bit of a massage, hands, feet, face, things like that. So if you don't have a routine, brainstorm one. And then this can go on a Post-it, and it can go in your bathroom or someplace that you see it. And then on our schedule, we're just going to put morning routine or evening routine. Okay, so this is where I've started blocking in those fixed and important activities. So I've got my yoga class on there, which I'm doing 2 times a week. This is where I blocked in a few rest breaks. This is where I blocked in my childcare. And then Friday is usually when I get that help. So I'm going to be putting some other activities on that Friday because I've got some pretty wide open spaces there. Okay, so now we're going to block in flexible but important activities. And then I forgot to mention this, but the last time, you want to put the challenging activities in the areas where you have the most energy. So because these aren't at specific times, I tend to be more of a morning person. So I'm going to put some more of these challenging activities towards the morning. I'm going to front load my day. My brain shuts off at 4 or 5 o'clock, legitimately. So I was trying to do like organization and deep cleaning and some cognitive tasks at the end of the day, and that just doesn't work for me. I would never do it. I was never successful. And then I was kind of beating myself up about it. So right now at the end of the day, I've got dinner. I give my kids a bath immediately after dinner, and then I take a rest break. So they either play or they watch a show for a little bit while I rest. And then I do just basic dishes, and I wipe the kitchen countertops, and I start my dishwasher. And that's all I have going on at the end of the day, because that already feels like enough. If I have additional energy, I go through and I set up for my morning. So I'll lay out my clothes, I'll lay out my kids' clothes, but that's if I have that additional energy at the end and I don't have that expectation of myself. So the other things that are a little bit more challenging are like my COVID project. So I have that booked in on my Friday now. I also try and do a little bit of a social life. Hey, that's nice. So sometimes I'll call or text friends or families on Fridays, and I have that built into my schedule. And then I do have my kids, but I try to add in only one thing I'm multitasking usually per day. So for example, on Tuesdays, I tend to do a meal prep. On Sundays, I tend to do the laundry, and I have a huge chunk of time that I can do that in. So, I can start a load of laundry, I can go off and do things with my kids and take a rest break and then go back and then switch it over. I'm not expecting that I'm gonna have everything completely finished, within 2 hours. That's just not reasonable. So give yourself these big chunks of time if you're able. Okay, so try and finish your schedule. This is what mine looks like when it's finished. I added in some things that are good for me that I enjoy doing. I added in some social time. I added in rest breaks. I added in my special projects. I have everything in here that I need to do. Guess what? On that less important flexible, I had organization, and that's just bonus. If I've got the time and the energy, then I do it, but I actually don't expect myself on a weekly basis to go in and know when I'm going to have time to do that. So that just gets kind of pushed to the side. I do it as able. This I have found is a good schedule for me. And so now that I kind of know when things need to be done, then I just have to make sure I'm doing it in the right way, which is that I pay attention to my body, I pay attention to the positioning of it, I pay attention to my breathing, I pay attention to my mood. Frustration is my number one key that I'm doing something where I'm overdoing it. So this for me is a good system. I hope you have written down a system that you feel like can work well for you. However, please, 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 we're going to start with number 3, be flexible. This schedule does not mean that you are pushing yourself to accomplish these tasks if you do not have the energy for them. So what we're going to try and do is, if you're in a crash, a post-exertional malaise crash, then you are not going to do things that are overdoing it. You're only going to be doing restful or easy activities until you're fully out of the crash. So please know that you may need to increase rest breaks or reschedule or cancel plans, and give yourself grace, because I'm sure ideally you do not want to cancel these things. You do not want to be forced to rest, but you have to allow yourself time to fully heal before you return to challenging activities. Okay? Let's work our way backwards. Number 2, make sure that you're doing those body checks. Make sure you're doing some short breathing exercises or relaxation exercises throughout the day. Like I said, posture, fatigue level, breath, shoulder position, your face, the start of any symptoms. That's when you need to know, yes, it's time for a break, even though I'm trying to get more done. Okay, and then number 1, again, if you have energy in the evening, if you have the time, I highly recommend setting up your next day. I highly recommend reviewing your schedule and making any tweaks. You can set alarms on your phone for when you need to start doing the next step, or when it's time for you to take a rest break. And then doing a mental run through is great for promoting that feeling of safety and that feeling of success. So picture your day, and instead of thinking, oh, I can only do this, I can only do that, reframe everything positively. Imagine it going smoothly. Imagine yourself when is a good time to take a break as you're even doing your mental run through. Okay, so that's going to try and keep things feeling successful and realistic, and you are really setting yourself up well to have a good day the next day. Okay, these are some additional resources. I really like the handout, the Royal College of Occupational Therapists. I think they did a great job. So visit their website, print out their forms, take a closer look if you have any questions about that. Just a reminder, I am an occupational therapist. I am not your occupational therapist. None of this is medical advice. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more. Please feel free to follow me or to send my videos to people that you think might benefit from them.